Good morning and welcome to Dying to Bloom. This is a monthly show that airs the fourth Thursday of the month, where we talk about our burial choices, how they impact the environment, and various topics about death, burial, cemeteries, and more. Now, I know it's not an easy topic for discussion, but let's get over that, because I'm sorry to say it so bluntly, but dying is not optional. So why not make educated decisions for ourselves and our loved ones? Now, I am an advocate for green burials and green cemeteries, which in a nutshell is a burial that takes place in a natural setting. It can be a field or meadow or a forest. There are many different green cemeteries in the U.S., and they continue to grow. If it sounds like something you're interested in, please consider donating to the Green Cemetery Fund through the Rockland Community Foundation at rocklandgives.org. Now, today's show is about burial at sea. And joining us on the line is Captain John Clinton from South Shore Sea Burials, located off the coast of Long Island. Good morning, Captain John.
Good morning, Carrie.
Welcome to Dying to Bloom.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're located, of course, as I said, off the coast of Long Island. How long have you been in business, and can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, this is our fifth year, and we specialize in doing memorial services at sea for cremated ashes.
Now, I did take a look at your website, and you do, again, as we've discussed briefly before the show, mostly cremated remains of humans and also pets, correct?
Yes, we just added that into our rotation about 2 years ago, and it seems to be doing well.
Now, it is rare for, I guess, a layperson, not a Navy serviceman, to have a full body burial, but that is a possibility as well, correct?
Yes. Although it is rare, there are some people that, opt for that.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about your services you provide, and why would someone choose you versus just going to the shoreline themselves and sprinkling the ashes in the ocean?
Well, the EPA is the one that's in charge of scattering ashes at sea, and they classify it technically as dumping garbage in the ocean. And you have to go a minimum of 3 miles offshore to scatter the ashes, otherwise they consider it ocean dumping. So some people, tend to do it themselves, not knowing the law, and other people know the law or want a memorial service rather than just, going to the shore and scattering the ashes. So we provide that option for them. We take care of all the paperwork with the EPA, and we give them other options to combine with the memorial service. Some people would like a dove release. Some people want balloon releases. Some people want classical music played. Some people want a bagpiper. Some people want a religious ceremony. Some people want a nautical ceremony. So we offer all of these options, and the people tend to like it. And we tell them what we usually do, but we also alter what they want, their desires. So we're very accommodating in that department.
So even though I think some people do it, it isn't really considered legal to sprinkle remains off the coast of the shore. And also I believe I read that it's not legal to do it in inland rivers or lakes as well. So you go 3 miles off the coast.
Yes, we go 3 miles out of Jones Inlet into the Atlantic Ocean.
And as you mentioned, there are regulations as far as the EPA, and you take care of all that, notifying them. And do you need certain permits or?
No, you don't need a permit for it, but you have to file your paperwork with the EPA. And they have different areas, have different points of contact. Different states have different points of contact within the EPA.
And, I do encourage environmental friendly burials. What kind of container do you use? Is it up to the individual, or are there legal requirements?
Any container that you would put into the ocean is supposed to be biodegradable. including the flowers, whatever's wrapped in the flowers. Obviously, no plastic or metals. Different funeral homes offer different biodegradable urns. We offer a biodegradable scallop shell. It's a rainbow in color, and it's on my website. You fill a biodegradable plastic bag with the ashes, and you put that into the shell. The shell gets lowered into the water, and it floats for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and then slowly, dives down to the bottom and biodegrades. We like this. People also like it. As we lower the flower, as we lower the shell into the water, we also put roses in the water, and then we'll circle around the floating remains counterclockwise, which signifies turning back the hands of time. We pull alongside the floating remains, and we sound the ship's bell 8 times, which signifies a change of watch at sea. So it does 2 things. It holds all the ashes, and it also acts as a very good marker for us to use and circle around with the boat.
Now, I just want to remind folks that are listening, if they do want to call in with a question, the call-in number here is 845-362-0013, and this is Dying to Bloom. And on the line with me this morning is Captain John Clinton from South Shore Sea Burials, located off the coast of Long Island. And Captain John, can you tell me a little bit, about the history of sea burials? This isn't something new. This has been going on for quite a long time.
Yes. It's been going back. You can trace this back into ancient times. Going back to Egypt, they used to utilize the Nile River, Rome and Greece. We can't forget the Vikings, and everybody's memory of watching the movies where they, light the boat on fire out to sea. But what interests me a lot is the British Navy. The British Navy used to dominate the world waters, and they had a tremendous amount of boats and sailors out there. They would spend huge amounts of time out at sea without being able to go to port. And the sailors used to pass away, obviously, from different diseases, and they didn't have the medical technology they do have. So what they used to do, or the idea they came up with, was they would wrap their sailor who passed away in his hammock that he used to have, and then they would tie him down with a cannonball, and this way he would be secured and he would go to the bottom of the ocean and not rise.
To me, it sounds similar to green burials, which I'm a big advocate for, which is burying in a natural shroud directly in the ground without the embalming process, where the body does actually nourish the earth as it decomposes. And it's similar to a full body sea burial, because that's what happens. The nourishment actually goes to feed other life forms there in the ocean.
Exactly.
Okay. I know this is a unique topic. You said something interesting when we spoke briefly the other day that I wanted to bring up. Another reason why people come to you for at least scattering their cremated remains, or perhaps even a full body burial, is people relocate.
Yes. Going back when at least I was young, everybody used to, grow up in one house and pretty much live in the same area as mom and dad did, and you would have a local cemetery. People always lived close, so it wasn't a big deal for you to, go visit, family members that had passed away. Today, with the economy the way it is, and people getting hired and fired and remortgaging their houses or flipping their houses or losing their houses, two people incomes, nobody lives, or very rarely people live in that same area. People spread their wings and relocate to different areas. So you really don't have that central located cemetery that you used to have. The great thing about the sea burial is all the salt water in the world is connected. It travels in currents. So if you lose somebody on the East Coast and scatter them at sea, and you're on vacation in the Gulf or in California in the Pacific, all that water is connected. So you have a feeling of connectivity when you go anywhere in the ocean, with that person that you lost.
And about pets, since you scatter cremated pets as well, one for people and pets, if you could tell us a little bit about the types of ceremonies you provide, but also as far as pets, I would imagine, some people, it could be pets or family members, when an animal or a family member dies and you decide to have them cremated. Sometimes people do, I think, sit with the ashes for a while before they figure out what to do with them. Or they may think about their loved one's wishes and say, yeah, I need to take that trip and scatter the ashes where I know they'd like to be. So, one, for those people that are in that situation and have been considering scattering remains at sea, the best way to reach you would be, I know you have a website, southshoreseaburials.com. Correct. And I'm going to give your phone number, which is 516-369-0032. But I would imagine, do you sometimes kind of do a group trip out for especially people with pets, or is it usually on an individual family basis?
Many occasions you have, mom or dad or grandma and grandpa or Uncle Tommy, and they're, already in a urn on the mantelpiece. And people say, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Or they want to finalize something. That's when they call us, and, we'll do the memorial service for them. Sometimes you have, mom passed away and dad's still alive, and mom's wishes was, she wants to be, with her husband. So now they wait for dad to pass away, and then we take them both out together. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different situation. So we try to accommodate anybody in all of these situations. When they decide it's time, that's when we offer them our services.
What kind of training, is there any requirements or certification that you have in order to be able to provide this service?
Yes, when you hire for charter, you have to have a United States Coast Guard license. I have the captain's license, and I also have a 100-ton master upgrade, which is an additional accreditation where you can drive, a larger boat.
Just to go on this topic a little, I know this one's a little more uncomfortable for people because people are more apt to consider cremated remains out at sea. But again, just to touch on the full body burial, how does that work? I understand that there are shroud-like materials that, again, are environmentally friendly that can be utilized for this type of service. Otherwise, I think I've read that there are caskets as well, but they would, of course, need holes drilled in them just so the body itself can actually decompose.
Yes, the full body burial is a lot more complicated than the air scattering service. The shrouds you were talking about, there are several manufacturers. One, I believe, is in Massachusetts. And these shrouds, obviously, the body is wrapped in and then it's sent down to the bottom. But the other option that they have is they use a casket. The casket has to be accompanied by the funeral director from the funeral parlor to the boat, and the boat has to be observed going out of the inn. The Coast Guard has to be notified that the boat is going to be leaving and what the boat is carrying. The coordinates have to be given to the Coast Guard. Notification has to be made when the body is dropped and the exact coordinates, and the Coast Guard has to be notified again. The problem with that, or the unique thing about that, is the sea and weather conditions. Mm-hmm. You have to go a minimum of 600 foot deep, and off the coast of Long Island, that's between anywhere from 75 to 100 miles offshore. So you can see how the weather plays a big part in, delivering this casket out to sea when you can have, 8 to 10 foot seas.
Now, I haven't done too much research on that, just a little bit, and in my understanding, it is slowly growing as an option as far as a burial choice. I haven't not looked into other cultures. I would imagine in the Caribbean waters or other islands, perhaps it's a little more popular or utilized. But How about Navy burials? I understand that men who are in the naval service are eligible for free sea burials.
Yes, I believe that the U.S. Navy offers that service free to their sailors. How it's done by them, I'm not too familiar with. I don't know if they take one person out or if they do it in groups when they get a few people. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of servicemen out there, and I guess as they pass away, they make arrangements to have that done. We've had servicemen that wanted to come out on our boat too, and we will provide a service for them. Sometimes we have the military honor guard either on the boat or at the dock, and they do a nice service for us as well as we depart into the inlet.
Can you give us an idea of what these services cost for?
Sure. Let's start off with the pets. The pets we charge $75 for. We have an unattended service for humans. That means we go out with the urn and we do a memorial service. That's $175. We have a 30-foot boat that accommodates up to 6 people. That's $395. We have a 55-foot boat that handles between 70 and 40 people. That's $800. And we have a 85-foot boat that handles anywhere between 41 and 85 people. That's $900. Now, our basic service, it takes between about an hour and a half and 2 hours from the time we leave the dock to the time we get back to the dock. We'll go out of the inlet, which is off Jones Beach in Point Lookout. Mm-hmm. We go approximately 3 miles offshore, sometimes a little bit more, if that's what the people want. I'll do a memorial service, which only takes about 5 minutes. I usually pick out a couple of nautical poems. After that, I ask if anybody wants to say anything on behalf of the deceased. Sometimes people do, sometimes people don't. Then we'll scatter the ashes or lower the urn. We also offer the people the opportunity, if they're going to be scattering the ashes, whether they want to do it themselves or several people want to participate in that. After that happens, everybody gets roses. People make a wish or say a prayer. They toss the roses overboard. We use that as a marker along with this the biodegradable urn. We'll take the boat and circle counterclockwise, which signifies turning back the hands of time. And then we'll pull alongside the floating flowers, and we'll sound the ship's bell 8 times, which means a change of watch at sea. We'll take a slow ride back to the dock. After that, about a week later, in the mail, you'll receive a certificate of burial at sea. This certificate has the deceased person's name, the date, the time, the latitude and longitude coordinates, the sea conditions, and the captain and the vessel that they were boarded on. Some people, put it on the wall. It's kind of like a diploma looking piece of paper, mm-hmm. and they use that as a remembrance.
Well, it sounds lovely, actually, as long as the weather is cooperating as well, I can imagine. Sometimes you could be out there and it could be a little rough. Other times you might have a calm, beautiful, sunny day. What about wind direction? Have you ever had an occurrence where the ashes actually blew back onto the ship?
Well, I remember seeing a movie as a kid, and I forget the name of it, where they did scatter somebody's ashes, and they had what they call blowback. So you're really cognizant of the wind direction. And what I usually do, which works every time, is I carry a little bottle of baby powder. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I stand in the back of the boat, and once I figure out which way we're going, with the wind by looking at the flag, I just verify that by squeezing the bottle and getting a puff of smoke and making sure that it does trail, behind the boat. And we're usually moving in a forward direction at idle speed, so that tends to keep the ashes going out the back of the boat and limits any kind of, blowback.
Well, good. You're experienced, Captain John. Again, we're almost finished with this segment. I just want to give the call-in number here one more time, 845-362-0013. If you do have any questions for Captain John Clinton from South Shore Sea Burials. Obviously, it's a unique topic, Captain John, but I think it's great information for people to be aware of as far as burial choices, as far as the environment. I mean, really, once you have cremated remains, what's left? I understand the EPA regulations, but I wouldn't think that there is too much that could really pollute or be a concern to the water quality.
It's not so much the ashes, Carrie, that I think they're worried about, although they want to group it all into one package. But, my experience is people who are uneducated in this don't know what they're doing. There's actually not an intentional thing that they're doing, but they'll tend to put things in the water that shouldn't be in the water, whether it's a casing or housing for something, or it's the plastic that the flowers are wrapped in. And this devastates our environment. Sea turtles eat it; they die. So plastic's a big no-no. Some people use tablecloths. Different religions, wrap tablecloths, and they want to put that in the water too. So you kind of like have to educate them and tell them, that they can't do that. But like I said, they're not intentionally doing it; they just don't know any better.
Right. Well, and I guess that's why if this is something you may be interested in or would be considering for yourself or your pet, I have lost a few pets in my lifetime as well, and did choose at one point to have a pet cremated. And it's true, you get a little confused on what to do with the remains. And I'd imagine, especially if you're a sea dog or a retriever that loves the water or something like that, it might be a nice option for you.
Well, you know what it is too, Carrie. A lot of people, it's not that they have a special kind of dog, but they consider the dog a family member. They'll take the dog for walks on the beach. They'll take the dog on the boat with them all the time. When they go to the hospitals, they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars, over the years on their pets, and it's kind of like a finalization, and they want to do with the pet the things they used to experience. And look, I'm down on the South Shore, so everybody who has a dog kind of spends a lot of water time with the dog, so it's become very popular. And like I said, it's a finalization, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. And going to a gravesite and mourning all the time. Do
the pets, people who utilize the service for their pets, do they just release the cremains, or do they go out on the boat and have a ceremony as well?
I've had both. Like I said, they consider the pet a family member. I would say the majority, tend to give me the urn, and I'll do my memorial service, and I take pictures or a short video of what's being done, and I email that to them so they have proof of what was done and how it was done. Other people with pets do the whole memorial service on the boat. Many people they consider it one of their loved ones that they're losing. Matter of fact, the most sentimental and touching one that I ever did was for a couple that lost a pit bull. I mean, it was the most emotional service I've ever seen. It was beautiful.
I was going to ask you that if you could share any stories that stood out to you without, of course, giving personal information. What was it that made that so special? Just that it meant so much to them, and
yeah, it was like their whole life. They considered it a baby. They were so emotional and broke down in tears. I actually physically had to help them walk, and this wasn't an older couple either. This was probably 35, 38-year-olds.
That's got to be a challenge for being in the business. I mean, here I host this Dying to Bloom show. Why did you choose to go into this type of business?
I kind of got steered in the direction when my uncle passed away. He was an attorney, and we went to clean out the basement, and there was a urn there, and it was like Mary Jones to be spread among the Atlantic Ocean. And he had a friend of his that was a practicing attorney who was cleaning up his business, and he said, now I have to find somebody that does this. He says, there's not many people out there. And I went home that day, and I was having a glass of wine on my deck, and I was watching the boats go by. And I said, I'd like to do something, with my boat, rather than to be just, a commercial fisherman. And, I went on the internet, and I started looking at it and researching, and that's how I started to get into it.
Well, on behalf of all the people that have utilized your service, we're glad that you did. And I do want to give your website one last time. It is southshoreseaburials.com. And the phone number there is 516-369-0032. And again, Captain John Clinton, thank you so much for joining us today and for providing that information.
Thanks for having us.
Just so those listening know, there are other service providers for sea burials, and again, that you can bury the cremated remains of a loved one, a pet, and there also is the option of a full body burial at sea, which, as Captain John mentioned, is a little more involved. Apparently it is becoming a little more popular as people take reins of their choices and become a little more educated, and that's part of what this show is all about. If you may know already, here in New York State, we do have the requirement of a licensed funeral director needs to be involved with the movement of a body here in New York. That law exists only in 8 states, and New York is one of them. So if you were interested in that type of burial, there would have to be a licensed funeral director on board as well. But it's worth researching if it's something you're considering. It certainly is a natural alternative. Providing to the ocean life. So as I end the show, I always like to flip the coin over and as we talk about death, also talk about life. Most of us have experienced unexpected loss of a loved one or a friend, and most of us also spend days thinking, one day I'll take time off with my family. One day I'll really enjoy my life. One day I'll pursue my dreams. Well, what if one day never happens? Life is short. Now is the time to enjoy life and pursue your dreams. I'm Carrie Potter. Join me next month on Dying to Bloom. I wanted to also give a plug that my guest next month will be Linda Zimmerman, author and ghost hunter, and she'll be giving us some morbid stories and facts on burial. So join me next month on Dying to Bloom. I'm Carrie Potter.